Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to answer questions I've been getting regarding my pregnancies with a bicornuate uterus. The first question says, did you get surgery to remove the septum? So originally I wanted to get the surgery done, and I looked for a doctor who was specialized in infertility and had years of medicine, had years of experience. And I also not just looked for one, but I also prayed about it, and I asked God to just guide me to that person that's supposed to help me with my situation. And during our first visit, she was able to answer most of my questions. The first thing she said, look, you want to get this surgery done, we need to diagnose you, because for those of you who don't know, I found out I had a bicornuate uterus through my first pregnancy during my C-section. So I went through my whole pregnancy not knowing I had this issue. I had a bicornuate uterus. So I was not diagnosed. I was just told that I had this. So she sent me to get this procedure done, which I don't remember the name, but it was like an ultrasound where they pumped ink into your uterus, and that to me was pretty painful. I would say it wasn't like super painful, but it was definitely something that I've never experienced. And I got a little teary during the procedure because it was that bad. And I mean, I'm not trying to scare anybody. You are going to be able to get through it, believe me, because I did. I had never in my life gotten a surgery except my C-section. And so I was pretty scared. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I was definitely willing to do anything to get pregnant and have a normal pregnancy. And so after they did that, my doctor was able to see exactly how my uterus looked. So one thing I have to mention, because you're probably going to be confused. So I did not continue with my old OBGYN that delivered my son, because, so long story short, my husband switched jobs, so I had to get a new insurance and a new doctor. So pretty much I had to start all over, and it also gave me the opportunity to look for a doctor that I felt comfortable with. So with that being said, my doctor had no idea how my uterus looked, and so for that reason she wanted to do this procedure and also to diagnose me. So after that, she had a follow-up, and she pretty much said that she would not be able to do that procedure. And the reason being is that she spoke to a lot of her friend doctors, and she was told that when people do this procedure, a lot of times there's scarring left behind. And even though that's not what the doctor's trying to do, that's just the consequence of having that surgery done. And so if that happens, then you are no longer able to have any more children. And she said, look, I don't want to make things worse for you, so I wouldn't suggest that you do this procedure. So she said, look, go ahead and try having a baby, and we'll just see what happens. And to be honest, that was not really what I wanted to hear, but I did pray about it, and I said, God, whatever she tells me, that's gonna be what I'm going to do. So I said, okay, we're not going to do the surgery. Let's just I guess just try and see what happens. And not just because she said it, but I also felt like that was the answer that I was supposed to get. It felt right to do it that way, because I also didn't want to get the procedure done and just not be able to have any more children due to that procedure. And so I was trying to prepare my mind also, because I did not want to get attached to a pregnancy that maybe was not going to happen. So I'm not too sure if I mentioned this before, but I know that with my second pregnancy, it took me 2 months to get pregnant. I didn't get pregnant. I just couldn't get pregnant right away. So about like maybe 8 weeks after getting pregnant is when I started spotting. And it went from like dry brown to like a bright red. I felt so scared. I honestly didn't know what to expect. I felt like maybe I'm just going to have a miscarriage, and I felt like I was probably having a miscarriage. And I called my doctor immediately and she said, look, I want to see you tomorrow. I'm going to order an emergency ultrasound. I went to the appointment and so nothing was wrong with the baby, thank God. And after that appointment, I was able to see her and she explained everything to me. She said, look, you're not going to lose this baby. You're not having a miscarriage. So what happens is the baby is, during implantation, when the baby attaches to the uterus, there was like a little scar that's bleeding. I guess during the procedure, when the baby implants to the uterus, the baby it kind of created like a scar, and that scar is bleeding, and so you're not going to have a miscarriage, but if you don't take care of yourself, maybe you will. So I need you to relax, don't lift anything heavy. And she said, look, I don't want you to be in bed rest either, because I just don't think it's the way to go, but just try and do light stuff, don't overdo it. And so that's exactly what I did. And my husband, you know, helped me a lot as well. And during that time, it was pretty difficult. And so during that time, I was trying to just be positive and think that, you know, this is just something that I'm going through right now. I'm just going to focus on taking care of myself. So that was something that lasted for an entire month. And then the bleeding stopped. The doctor cleared me out and she said, look, you're fine now. And she said, look, just continue to take care of yourself, because we know that you have, you know, the bicornuate uterus and we don't want to risk anything, but just take it easy. But the bleeding is gone. So that was a big relief. So that was just like a little thing I wanted to talk about. But to answer that question, I did not have the surgery to get it removed. And then another thing that I do want to mention is that when I was diagnosed, the doctor did have the full picture of my uterus, and she was able to tell that I have a complete septum, which meant that my uterus is divided into half, which is very different than which is actually very different than people who have a double uterus, because believe it or not, there is that too. Double uterus just means that you can also get pregnant while you're pregnant, so that's different. And I don't know if like they also recommend C-sections. I'm not too sure because I don't have that, but I've heard that it's pretty similar in some way. And so yeah, what I have is a complete bicornuate uterus. So our uterus is supposed to look something like this, and mine is divided into two. But I only have one uterus, not a double uterus. I'm going to answer the next one, and it says, did having the bicornuate uterus affect the baby's weight? So I don't think the baby's weight was affected. My first pregnancy, my son was 6 pounds 12 ounces, and with my second pregnancy, my daughter was 8 pounds 14 ounces. So I mean, you can see the big difference. My daughter was pretty big and I didn't have an issue. So I wouldn't say that affects the baby's weight. Maybe on your first one, because the first baby is the one that kind of has to stretch the uterus. So, oh, somebody's asking how long were my pregnancies. So with my first pregnancy, I was pregnant for 36 weeks. And my second pregnancy, I was pregnant for 40 weeks. Okay, so the next question says, what procedures did you get done prior to getting pregnant? So I didn't do any procedure except with getting diagnosed. I had that ultrasound that we talked about earlier. What type of diet or precautions did I take? I was not following a diet. I was trying to not eat so much sugar or salts like they suggest, and other than that, I wasn't really I didn't have a diet, if that's what they're asking. So I was really trying to not be stressed out. What I did is I really just tried to clear my schedule, not sign up for things that I knew that would probably stress me out, or anywhere where I had to take my son, because my son was pretty heavy, and being alone with the toddler, it was pretty difficult to get around. So if I wasn't able to make it someplace, I would just have to say no. If I felt overwhelmed with home cleaning and everything, I personally just prefer to clean rather than cook. That my husband would help me Every now and then he would cook, so that was a huge help for me at home, because then I could either relax or get something done while he was cooking. So I would say if you have anybody who can help you, you should ask for that help. And then I've already said this before, but I was trying to not lift anything heavy. I would always ask my husband or anybody around. And the next question says, how did the doctor determine you had a bicornuate uterus? So I've already talked about that, so we'll skip that one. Did you have a normal delivery or C-section? So both my pregnancies were C-sections. The reason why I had a C-section with my first pregnancy was because my son was breached, and he was out of amniotic fluid, and so it was kind of like an emergency C-section, but I already knew we were going to have a C-section. And then with my daughter, the doctor did swab me to see if maybe my body was reacting and maybe was getting ready for delivery, but she didn't feel like my body was getting ready for delivery. So we just went with C-section because I felt that would be the safest. I didn't want to have to go through a whole thing of like trying and not getting. I didn't want to go through a whole thing of trying and then I would probably regret. Like, I already know I have this issue and I don't want to make things complicated, to be honest. And so that was just my decision. And so we've already gone through all the questions that people have asked me. It was actually not too many. I thought we had more. I guess I had notes of what I should say, and I've already touched all those points. So anyway, if you have to go through a C-section, please don't feel like it's the end of the world, because that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, oh my gosh, how can I get a C-section? What are people gonna think? And believe it or not, I really don't care what people say. I'm doing what's safest for myself and my children. So for my second pregnancy, it really did feel right to have another C-section. I just really wanted to hear from my doctor and see what she would say, but she pretty much confirmed to me that a second C-section would be best. So do what's right for you. I think that maybe the outcome for everybody is different. So I really hope these questions and answers have helped you. And if you have any more questions for me, you can leave them down below and I will answer them as I can. But any of you who have already gone through this, because I know that there's so many of you that had messaged and you've already gone through a pregnancy, let us know. If you want to share your story, you can comment down below and share with all the other girls what your outcome was. Is there anything that you want to add to this? That way all the other girls who are new here and are going through the same issue can read them and hopefully find hope. My heart does go out for all of you who have lost a baby in the process. So just know that you're not alone, and there's so many of us going through the same thing. I honestly do not know if I want to have a third baby, and I mean, I really do not know. So if I were to have a third baby, I would definitely just try again and go through the process like I did with my last pregnancy. And this time around, my doctor has retired. I saw her last in my last postpartum, and she told me that she was retiring. So I'm not going to see her. I would have to look for a new doctor. So that's the update for me. I really hope you're well. I am praying and I'm hoping that everything goes well with your pregnancy. And like I said, if you guys want to share a story, I would like to hear from everybody who's already had a successful pregnancy, or maybe want to share a story of like what happened during your pregnancies, because everybody is different and maybe we all have different stories. Please be sensitive in the way that you comment each other. Other than that, I really hope that this helped you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.